So, our keynote speaker, Sarah Shanavez, the sister of Elwood Police Officer Noah Shanavez. End of watch, July 31st, 2022. Officer Noah Shanavez was shot and killed while making a traffic stop near the intersection of County Road 1000 North and Route 37 in Elwood at about 2 o'clock in the morning. The driver of the vehicle he stopped exited his car and opened fire on Officer Shanavez before he had a chance to exit his patrol vehicle or even unholster his weapon. The man then led other officers on a pursuit, and he was finally located in Hamilton County. He continued to flee, and officers from the Fishers Police Department performed a pit maneuver and were able to apprehend him. Officer Shanavez was transported to a local hospital and then flown to Indianapolis, where he succumbed to his wounds. The subject he shot was a convicted felon who had been previously convicted of shooting at police officers in Indianapolis. He was charged with capital murder and other charges after murdering Officer Shanavez, and his trial is set for September of 2025. Officer Shanavez was a United States Army military police officer and Global War on Terror veteran, and served with the Elwood Police Department for 11 months. He is survived by his parents, his brother, and his dear sister, Sarah, who we'll hear from here shortly. Sarah?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Shanavez. I'm the younger sister of Elwood Officer Noah Shanavez, who, as we just heard, was killed in the line of duty on July 31st, 2022. First, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to share my part of Noah's story with you tonight. I haven't had the opportunity to speak publicly about him since his funeral, which was now 2.5 years ago. I turned 24 earlier this year, which is how old Noah was when he died. I surpassed him in age to the day a couple months ago. And it's weird because I'll always refer to him as my older brother, but now I guess I can say I'm older than he's ever gotten to be, so. On the morning of his death, I woke up to my cousin banging on the door to my apartment. When I opened the door, she told me, "Sarah, you need to call your mom. Sit down and call your mom." There was a sternness to her voice that I will never forget. I remember feeling confused, like I had woken up from a long nap and couldn't remember what year it was for a second. I picked up my phone and saw that I had several missed calls from my parents. I called my mom back, and she said, "Sarah, your brother was shot last night while he was at work. He didn't make it, so come home, get your stuff, and come home." I was just shocked. I didn't cry for several hours, and I remember in the moment feeling bad about that, but I was in shock and trying to come to grips with the fact that the world is not what I thought it was. I was so incredibly sheltered from how cruel the world can truly be, and the reality of it hit me that morning on the phone, hearing about my brother's death. Now, every time I hear an officer has died in the line of duty, I don't just feel empathy about the situation. I picture in great detail what it must be like for another family to get that call and to have to plan a funeral for someone that was not supposed to die yet. It's things like this that force you to acknowledge the fact that death is not partial to people of old age. Young people die all the time. It's easy to become cynical when you're first-handedly exposed to the fact that we live in a world where there are good people doing earnest good dying every year. Every year, there are more names added to the memorial wall in Washington, D.C. The survivor network grows deeper and wider every day. The worst part is that we never know when our last day waking up on Earth will be. We never know until after the fact that it was our last phone call, our last conversation, our last I love yous exchanged with them. No matter how hard we try, we can't prepare ourselves for the grief. And still, we love and keep loving, even though we know in the back of our minds that it's all impermanent. We're really only here for a blink of an eye, and to be alive is to love and to eventually grieve. And the grief, it's a cruel education. It teaches us the worth of the love we have for one another by showing us how painful it can be to have love for someone that will go unspent. And despite it all, if given the choice not to ever love, to never have to experience grief, we would choose to love every single time. I've heard before that a person can identify one event that divided their life into before and after, when something happens to you that causes you to look at life differently. I can speak for every member of my family, and probably every survivor, when I say that receiving the news my brother was killed was the event that changed me in major ways and forever. The cruelty of losing someone you love so unexpectedly and so horrifically has a way of permanently altering your perspective on life. It took a devastation like losing Noah to teach me the absolute preciousness of life. Even though we're forced to continue on without a vital piece of our family structure, I know my continued existence is a gift. I'm alive, and because of that, I'm given the opportunity to continue making something of my time on Earth, and I'm able to keep loving my people. We miss Noah every day. Not only do we grieve the fact that he's not here anymore, we grieve all the things he'll never get to do, and we grieve the fact that we're all getting older without him. I was a completely different person before Noah died. We were siblings, but we weren't quite friends yet. We were different. Our interests were different. But I know that if given the chance, we would have become friends too. The fact that we didn't get to that point is a guilt that I have carried with me every day since he died. It helps, though, that I've met and formed connections with so many people who remind me of him in one way or another. The way I see it, this is as close as I'll ever get to building the friendship with Noah that he and I never really got to build together. I like to think that this is his way of showing up for me, even though he isn't alive anymore. To those of us here tonight that have lost a loved one in the line of duty, thank you for being there to represent them. I try not to give advice because I know grief looks different on everyone, but if you want to take it, my best advice is to let the grief unfold you. Let in the people that remind you of the best parts of your loved one, and let it all change you. There's life in pushing forward despite not wanting to at all. If only we could turn back time and relive just a moment with them. The unfortunate truth is that we can't. But I choose to believe that death isn't the end. And somehow, in a way we can't understand, they're here with us, sharing in the good memories we continue to make without them, and lending a shoulder to cry on during the days we struggle. I hope we can all try and think of it this way as we go through another holiday season without them. And to the ILEA Class 234, on behalf of my family, thank you for your assisting with the ceremony this evening. You're coming up on one of the first milestones in your career in policing, and you should be immensely proud of what you've accomplished thus far. I wish you the best of luck as you begin this journey. And I urge you to always remember the preciousness of being able to come home every night. They say the days are long, but life is short. So in the midst of mundane work weeks, overtime shifts, and late calls, I hope you never forget how lucky you are to be here. Thank you.